Welcome to the first episode of TNL's Mythbuster, where we take all the myths flying around in the TNL community and check if they're actually true or if we can bust them.
Jamie wants big boom.
Now, if you've been playing Throne Liberty for a while, you might have noticed that sometimes it's hard to tell if an ability is actually working as intended or not. And maybe the ability is working as intended, but the description just doesn't match or something is missing from it. I'm sometimes not sure if the devs don't know how the ability works or if Google Translate just did a really bad job. But because of that, we have plenty of myths in the TNL community. And in this series, we will bust all of them that are wrong. I will also explain exactly how I test things, so you can try it out yourself if you don't trust me. In this episode, we have 4 myths to look at. But if you have something you think should be tested, feel free to post it in the comments. I will try to cover that in my next video. Okay, but before we start, let me change my outfit. Much better. Okay, so the first myth is a funny one. It's about the passive Cold Warrior. At the release of the game, the description of the ability said you get heavy attack chance if you attack a stunned or shocked target. And on top of that, you also get some crit chance. Now, a couple of months ago, the dev said, oh, sorry guys, this was actually never the case. The ability increases your hit chance instead of your heavy attack chance. Okay, mistakes happen, whatever. So they changed the description. And of course, most people accepted that. Me too. But now someone told me the old description is actually still correct. So here we are with our first myth. Cold Warrior gives you heavy attack chance instead of hit chance against stunned targets. We will of course test this, but on top of that we will also check if the crit chance is always applied or also only when hitting a stunned target. Because let's be honest here, the description isn't clear. So let's first check if Cold Warrior gives us anything passively. Okay, so we have only Cold Warrior equipped and a Great Greatsword, but no other gear, which means we have 55 critical hit chance, 0 heavy attack chance. So we should, in theory, crit around 5% of the time and have no heavy attacks at all. Now I hit a dummy 100 times with abilities to see how many crits and heavy attacks we get. So after we did our first 100 hits, we crit 4 times, had 0 heavy attacks and 96 normal hits. That matches almost perfectly with our 55 crit chance and 0 heavy attack chance. So Cold Warrior gives nothing passively. Not even the crit chance, even though it's a little bit phrased like this. But now comes the interesting part. We are stunning the target and doing our attacks again. So the old description said that we get 288 heavy attack chance, which should give us around 22% heavy attacks. Additionally, we get 105 crit chance on top of our 55 base crit, giving us around 14% total crit chance. Now for this one I actually did 200 attacks. So you can see here my nice little tally sheets where I counted all the crits, all the heavy attacks and everything like this. Just beautiful, right? But nevertheless, the results are super clear. First 100 hits, 13 crits, 20 heavy attacks and 70 normal hits. Second 100 hits, 12 crits, 23 heavy attacks and 68 normal hits. By the way, don't you wonder that in total it looks like I did more than 200 hits, but sometimes we just crit and heavy hit at the same time. That's why we are above 200 here. But yes, Cold Warrior gives heavy attack chance and crit chance against stunned targets. It's 100% true. Also, the percentages are aligning perfectly. Why they changed the description and said it never worked like this, I have no idea. I also tested if it gives both now, so heavy attack chance and hit chance. But nope, it's only heavy attack chance and crit. So no hit at all. I have no clue why they said this or what happened there. But yes, it gives crit chance and heavy attack chance. So myth confirmed. Maybe they will change it in the future or maybe not. Whatever, let's come to the next myth. Now we are going to talk about the wand ability Time for Punishment. So most of you probably use the upgraded version to give yourself or someone else some skill damage boost, which is super strong. But if you don't do that, you can actually decrease the target skill damage instead. And based on the description, we will also deal additional 200% of base damage for every side or back hit you're doing. Now, I was always telling people the first effect, so the reduction of the skill damage resistance counts for the whole group, which of course would be insane in PvE. If you reduce the skill damage resistance of a boss, the whole group will deal more damage. That's why I always suggested healers to play with it. But a lot of people always told me in the comments of my videos that I'm wrong. You said Time for Punishment is only affecting the caster and not the whole group. So let's test it. So we are in a group with our best friend Grob's Dummy, who will always be applying time for punishment for us. Now before we does that, we need of course a reference value that we can compare our new damage with. So we will test this always with the ability Chain Lightning. So you can see I deal with a crit from Chain Lightning, 7,255 damage. And the next crit is the exact same number, again 7,255. Okay, so we have our reference value. Now Grob's Dummy will apply time for punishment for us, we use Chain Lightning again, and voila, we deal 7,749 damage, which is more than 7,255, so yes, this ability counts for everyone in the party, not only for yourself. Now Grob's Dummy doesn't have the ability max, only reducing the skill damage resistance by 150, but this already gave us a 7% damage increase, which is already really insane. But if I apply now my maxed version from my character, we deal 7,945 damage. That's around 10% more damage. I also checked that with the Gate of Infinity boss, and here it's exactly the same, 10% more damage. I assume that bows have simply 0 skill damage resistance, so that's why we have here the exact same percentages. And of course this can differ on the raid bosses, for example, but you see the importance to have this 100% of the time on the boss. It's literally 10% more damage for the whole party, which is completely insane. So we busted the myth. The first effect of time for punishment counts for the whole group. But I also tested the second part of the ability, where we deal additional damage if we hit from the side or back. And this one is actually only for the caster itself. So this one is not applying for the whole group. And by the way, another thing that I found out here is that this effect has an internal cooldown. It's something around 10 seconds, which, to be honest, makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, that would be super broken. But maybe they should mention that somewhere. Now, what does that mean? Take the information as you want. But let me give you my 2 cents on what I would do. So of course, healers and invocators could apply time for punishment with corrupting hit through auto attacks. But the problem is that healers usually have really low attack speed, so they don't proc it that often, and invocators don't do a lot of auto attacks in raids anymore. So they also don't really proc it, which means everyone is losing the damage boost. And one healer alone can easily have this 100% of the time on the boss and give everyone the 10% damage boost. And yes, even if the healer is applying the skill damage boost to multiple players, it's probably still better and way more consistent to decrease the skill damage resistance of the boss, especially because diminishing returns for skill damage boost will kick in here. The only reason, from my point of view, why you would not take it as a healer is if you have a Fury player in your party, because they just do a lot of auto attacks and will apply this consistently. If you don't have one, then I would always go as a healer here for time for punishment. I think it's just way too important to have this 10% damage boost all the time for your whole party. Now let's come to the third most for today, which is an easy one. This one I actually mentioned in my last Invocator video. I said that AoE High Focus and the normal High Focus are stacking. But someone in the comments said that wouldn't be the case, so here we are. Let's test it real quick. We are again in our group with our best friend Grob's Dummy. Now this is now super easy to check. We will just use here our High Focus. Then we can see we have 106.5% cooldown speed. Now Grob's Dummy uses his AoE High Focus. And we check again and we still have 106.5% cooldown speed. So that means, no, these abilities are not stacking, so I got busted. Sorry for bringing some confusion here. That means if you have a lot of staff players in your party, it's not really that useful to play with this ability, because they all anyways will have their own High Focus. Now let's come to our last myth of the day. So I was told a couple of weeks ago that if you get minus Heavy Attack Evasion through your masteries, monsters can actually heavy attack you, even though they usually can't. So if you go into the masteries, you can see that sometimes you get something positive, but you also lose something for it. For example, here we are getting some range critical hit chance, but we are losing Heavy Attack Evasion. And if we would have no Heavy Attack Evasion at all and take this, then we would have minus Heavy Attack Evasion. So we would be giving the enemy some heavy attack chance. And since the same thing exists for endurance, meaning we can also get minus endurance from some masteries, I thought I would directly test this as well. So first let's see what actually happens with our stats. Right now we have nothing equipped. We have no masteries or anything. Just a simple grey bow with 0 stats. Now you can see we have 5 endurance and 0 heavy attack evasion. Now let's get back to our masteries and put in here the -36 heavy attack evasion and -45 melee endurance. Now let's go back and we can see that we have 0 melee endurance and -36 melee heavy attack evasion. So it seems like we can't go below 0 endurance, but we can go below 0 heavy attack evasion. But now let's double check and see if monsters can actually crit or heavy attack us. So as you can see, I just pulled you some dwarves, they hit me for a while, and then we actually saw a 321 times 2. So yes, monsters can actually heavy attack you if you have minus heavy attack evasion. I also waited here like a couple of minutes longer and got hit hundreds of times to actually see if they would maybe also crit us, but yeah, they never did. I guess that makes sense, since we can't go into minus endurance, monsters don't get free crits. But since you can go into minus heavy attack evasion, they can heavy attack you. So what does that mean? Should you now avoid taking those points in PvE because monsters could heavy attack you? I would say no. So it seems to be using the same formula, which means if you have, for example, -36 heavy attack evasion, monsters will get around 3% heavy attack chance. Bro, if this triggers and actually kills you, for example in a raid or a dungeon, so be it. It's just super unlikely. So if you get a really good stat from a mastery node, but lose some heavy attack evasion for it, I would still 100% say you always take it. That's just my 2 cents again. But yes, we confirmed the myth. Monsters can actually heavy attack you if you have minus heavy attack evasion. And yeah, I think it's just super funny that something like this is in the game. That's all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have myths that should be checked, drop them in the comments. Thanks for watching and see ya in the next one.